if you use certified seed, we suggest to departments of ag that the registration should be less costly. And two, they submit their certified seed tag when they register their plot, and thereafter, there does not need to be any further regulation.
That's Wendy Mosher from New West Genetics, talking about a policy change initiative called Value the Seed. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I'm going to talk to Wendy about Value the Seed, how it works, how it can benefit farmers and regulators alike, and what needs to happen yet to make it a reality. We'll take a quick sponsor break, then come back with a few news nuggets, and then get right into my conversation with Wendy from New West Genetics. This episode is brought to you in part by Westtown Bank and Trust. Most banks won't bank hemp-related businesses, and many of the ones that do only do so behind closed doors. But Westtown Bank doesn't just bank hemp, they embrace the entire industry. Westtown Bank has developed a full suite of business banking and payment processing solutions tailored specifically to the hemp industry. Their team of hemp experts provides the personal service your business needs so you can feel unquestionably safe and secure banking with Westtown. Find out why hemp banks here by visiting westtownbank.com/hemp. That's westtownbank.com/hemp. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they are fully committed to the goodness of hemp. They've just redesigned their website too, so be sure to check out indhemp.com to learn more about the work they're doing. And you can keep up with IND Hemp in real time by following them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at IND Hemp. Okay, so welcome back to our show. Thank you for listening. So here it is. This is the first week of summer. We just had the summer solstice here in Pennsylvania, and I imagine you had it in your neck of the woods too. So, wow, summer 2022. It's been an exciting week here for me, hemp-wise. The highlight for me was being interviewed by Mandy Kerr from the Global Hemp Association on her show Moving Hemp Forward. She turned the tables on me, and instead of asking the questions, I had to answer the questions. So that was fun. So check that out if you have the time. I'll put a link to it on the show page for this episode. But also check out the Global Hemp Association, really wonderful organization doing great work in the industry. So a few nuggets of news this week, mostly hemp, but not all hemp. Anyway, here's something from agupdate.com on their farm and ranch guide. The headline reads, Homeland Hempcrete plans to buy North Dakota hemp fiber. And the story says that Homeland Hempcrete in Bismarck constructs wall panels out of the herd from industrial hemp fiber for replacing exterior walls in homes and other structures. Matt Marino, owner of Homeland Hempcrete, said the business officially started a couple of years ago, but they haven't built any homes, storage units, or structures yet for North Dakotans. They have been working on their equipment and the way to procure and use hemp fiber. Marino hopes to start buying North Dakota-grown hemp fiber from new hemp processors that could be up and running by the end of 2022. The story goes into a whole lot more than that, but I'll just get you started with that one. I did meet Matt Marino a couple of months ago here in Pennsylvania at a Hempcrete workshop hosted by Amerishon Cast Hemp. Okay, here's another story from agupdate.com. This is on the Prairie Star page, and it's a story about a hemp farmer building a house out of hemp fiber. It says it's from Butte, Montana. Kim Phillips, a Montana farmer who is nationally known for winning the right to irrigate her industrial hemp crop with federal water a few years ago, is finishing building her home that is constructed entirely out of hemp fiber called Hempcrete. Phillips, who is also the founder of Plan It Hemp, bought a 100-year-old home in Butte and took it down to the studs. Phillips wanted to use her own hemp crop to build the house with, but with the Bureau of Land Management refusing to let her irrigate it, the crop that was growing in the Helena Valley died. Just as she was starting to grow her second crop the next year, she won the lawsuit and was able to use irrigation. However, that crop was too late for her building project. I bought 4 tons of industrial hemp and had it delivered down here so I could start construction, she said. It is a premier fiber variety that makes excellent hemp hurd, grows very tall, and has a good woody core. There is much more to the story, so I'll put a link to that on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. Here's a story from Pennsylvania. This is from Pittsburgh's NPR news station WESA. The headline reads, "Unregulated hemp derivative Delta 8 thrives in Pennsylvania's thorny marijuana landscape." The story says that Pennsylvania lawmakers and advocates for legal cannabis say uneven access to marijuana has pushed consumers toward a widely available but unregulated psychoactive product whose exact contents are often impossible to discern. A state senator is now pushing to implement regulations that would keep it available while ensuring it is safe to consume. So Delta 8 THC is a cannabinoid derived from hemp. Its properties resemble those of Delta 9, the main cannabinoid in marijuana that produces the high, but users say Delta 8 creates milder effects. So anyway here, in Pennsylvania, some consumers have turned to it for its reported milder side effects, and because of the state's complex cannabis landscape, accessing medical marijuana can be time-consuming and costly, and recreational cannabis remains illegal. But despite its hazy legal status and easy availability, Delta 8 is not subject to any regulations or mandatory testing, and its packaging isn't required to specify serving size or potential side effects. The FDA warns consuming Delta 8 could result in serious health risks. National Poison Control Centers received 2,362 calls related to Delta 8 between January 2021 and March 2022, according to the agency. And 40% of those calls involved unintentional exposure. Of those exposures, 82% involved pediatric patients. The potential for children to consume Delta 8 is one of the reasons why Senator Judy Schwank, Democrat of Berks County, plans to introduce legislation that would regulate the product. Schwank said she was contacted by a parent whose middle schooler bought a vape with Delta 8 in it. My concern initially came from the fact that there may be youth that are using this product as an alternative to recreational marijuana to get high, Schwank said, and may inadvertently be poisoning themselves with other products that are inside. Senator Schwank has been on our show a few times, so we'll keep an eye on this, and maybe we'll talk to Judy in the next few weeks. All right, and this last story is not about hemp, but it is about climate change, and maybe this is the story that will get people to finally wake up to the existential threat that is climate change. I found it on KATU.com, an ABC affiliate in California, and it says that scientists predict future ketchup shortage as climate change damages crop. And so the story is about the tomato crop in California. It says that California accounts for roughly 95% of the nation's processing tomatoes and about half the world's supply. Researchers believe warmer temperatures will speed up the planet's growth cycle, resulting in a shorter time for the crop to develop. They predict a 6% decline in tomato production by 2050, but between 2050 and 2100, the global tomato harvest could be cut in half. So there's a lot more to the story. I'm just giving you the highlights here, but maybe is it time to stock up on ketchup? I'm not sure. All right, so that's the news from here. If you have any nuggets of news that you want to share with me, please get in touch. You can email me, send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's get into my interview with Wendy Mosher from New West Genetics, talking about an initiative called Value the Seed. Wendy Mosher, President and CEO of New West Genetics. Welcome back to our podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you, Eric. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. It's these are challenging times, but I'm just trying to ride the wave. It ebbs and flows. Yeah. All right. So to bring listeners up to speed, last summer, when I was on the National Hemp Tour, I stopped by and visited with you at the New West Genetics headquarters in Fort Collins, where I learned all about your company. And then just this past March, we spent a little bit of time together at the NOCO Hemp Expo in Denver. So it's great to see you again. But today I specifically want to talk to you about an initiative that your company, along with a few other stakeholders, are involved in. It's called Value the Seed. So What is Value the Seed?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Good to see you again as well. Value the Seed is a legislative initiative to improve regulation and reduce onerous regs on growers, as well as sort of assist regulators to reduce their regulation as well.
Cool. All right. So where did this idea come from in the first place?
This has been something I've been working on for about 6 years, honestly.
Wow.
I was trying to go through the regulatory pathway and having meetings, with our State Department of Ag early on, and then in 2018 with with the USDA of you should, offer some sort of incentive for the use of certified seed because it's been third party validated. So really trying hard to work on it through a regulatory pathway, which CDA absolutely, has taken on.
That's the Colorado Department of Agriculture.
Sorry, yes, CDA is Colorado. But the USDA has been hesitant to do it. So that developed into me talking with other stakeholders who are within the certified seed realm or processors who use certified seed and appreciate the value of it, that, hey, maybe we can improve, our piece of the supply chain by asking for this incentive legislatively. So.
Okay. And so this is not only to remove the burdens from farmers, it's going to eliminate some of their testing and other requirements, and it's going to help regulators. And what other benefits does it have for the industry?
Well, I would say, right now with commodity pricing, the way where it is incredibly difficult to compete at the per acre price for growers, and then it also becomes onerous when they hear they have to have testing. Right? They don't like that. Their time is money. So it really removes that sort of mental barrier of having to have someone come on your land and check something, which I totally get. So that's a big win, and thus it will increase adoption, right, of hemp. If that sole, idea is removed.
Just that barrier to entry.
Yeah. And so what we're talking about, I'll just talk specifically the mechanics of it, is it's simply an incentive. It's not, we're not suggesting a mandate by any means. But if you use certified seed, we suggest to departments of ag that the registration should be less costly. And two, they submit their certified seed tag when they register their plot. And thereafter, there does not need to be any further regulation. Certified seed tags are highly protected among the certified seed industry. Every Department of Ag deals with that and understands, the whole sort of supply chain of certified seeds. So it's a win-win for regulators as well, because they're all struggling. I've spoken with the state departments of ag, and they're all struggling with funding these programs now that acreage has decreased.
Right. Well, can you just explain certified seed to me? Like how does it work? Who certifies it? Just give me the basic.
Yeah, just a broad overview. So back in, I love this story, so cut me off if I'm going too long.
No, go for it.
Back in the 20s, like the period between the 20s and 40s, we had the world wars, right? And what was happening is growers were, reusing their seed, which made sense at the time. But what started to happen is the quality of that seed degraded, the yields degraded, the product, the actual, grain that was coming off of that degraded. And there arose a world food crisis. So both Europe as well, and multiple countries, right, within Europe, as well as, North America said, holy crap, we need to firm up our seed. We need to be able to rely on, food. And they recognize that, if you need a healthy food chain, you need quality genetics. And so from that, both the not EU, but European countries at the time, as well as North America, devised these standards, and we literally put in legislation in our federal legislation, seed standards, and the requirement to have a third party validator of this system. And what developed out of that was these AASCA standards. Now, AASCA is sort of quasi-regulatory in some ways, but they enact these federal standards. They write standards for every crop. And then they have minions within each state. They have an organization, and there's a few states where they kind of group the organization together, but it might be the crop improvement organization. It might be the university, the ag university. It might be seed certifiers. So within Colorado, it's called Colorado Seed Growers Association. And they take those AASCA standards, they go out into the fields for every lot, every time, and they determine whether that seed meets those standards. And it might be 2 visits, it might be 3 visits. It just depends on the crop and what the standards are. So we actually, as New West, were the first company to walk through this certified seed process for hemp, which is slightly different. Every crop has its little, idiosyncrasy that,
Sure.
You need some kind of special reg. So we were the first to walk through that. It was very interesting. It's slightly different now than it looked back then. But it results in third-party validated seed, that it is genetically pure, that it is novel, that it is uniform, and that it goes to a certified seed lab, which validates a number of other pieces: weed presence, germination, et cetera.
Okay, so farmers are going to know what they're getting. Regulators are going to know that the farmers know what they're getting, and it's just going to make it easier for everybody, and we can get more acreage in, which will be good for the industry overall.
That's right. And it saves, we have these regulatory programs we put time and money into, and they have this frustration of not being able to be funded. So, it's also going to shore that all that workup that we did, right? Everybody in every state over the last, number of years. So it just helps the whole system. And the one other thing that certified seed is that is separate from AASCA, but within the state or the regulatory program that you get certified within your state, there's THC testing. So, and we know now that, the cannabinoids in well-bred seed are controlled genetically, not, due to, I planted it at 5,000 feet as opposed to 1,000 and the THC change. That should not happen in well-bred seed, which is what AASCA validates. Yes, this is well-bred.
Okay. Is the value of the seed, is that the entire industry? Is it cannabinoids, or is it fiber and grain? It's every aspect of the seed?
AASCA has standards for both feminized seed as well as for monoecious, as well as for dioecious.
Okay.
So there are separate standards for each of those categories. And yes, we have, if you go to AASCA's website, click on hemp, you'll see, all the varieties that are certified there.
Okay. And who are some of the other stakeholders involved in this initiative?
So we worked, initially with ASTA, so the American Seed Trade Association, which is a big supporter of certified seed. I've been the chairperson of their hemp committee for the last 3 or 4 years. So that was step number 1. And then we brought in other seed sellers of certified seeds, which is, primarily because we wanted to keep it US focused. We love our Canadian brethren for sure. And they're masters at producing certified seed. But because we were proposing sort of a different regulatory regime, we wanted to stick to the US. So the next largest certified seed seller in the US is International Hemp. So that was principal. And then we reached out to all of our processor friends. So Whitefield Global, Midwest Hemp, at King's AgriSeed, where you are in Pennsylvania, the National Hemp Growers Co-op, Hemp X. I always get that name mixed up, but Hemp X. So Mike Liego and right. All of those guys. Yeah. So Larry Smart at Cornell, who sits on AASCA's variety review board, has always pushed this as well. So there are a group, and it's growing every day. We get, letters and initiatives, but principally as far as, the legislative language, it's myself and ASTA. getting that prepped. So
Okay. Well, what has to happen next?
So next, we'll continue to meet with the senators that we're meeting with, and refining language, keeping the language comfortable for both sides. That's what's next. Continue to build, the stakeholders, because every representative loves to see that they're representing as many voices as they can. So continuing to do that. And continuing to educate the industry, I would say, has been our a challenge on why certified seed is better. So just keeping the education going like we've been doing for the last 8 years. Yeah.
So are you looking for like standalone legislation, or is this to get into the next farm bill?
Within the Farm Bill, standalone legislation, solely dedicated to hemp is incredibly difficult. I mean, they don't have time. You want to respect your representatives' time as well, right? You're asking a lot for that. So, within the Farm Bill is fine.
I guess it was a couple of months ago, I talked to Erica Stark and Courtney Moran and Morgan Elliott Tweet, and they're working on the hemp exemption. Is there any synergy there, or what? Can you sort of compare and contrast these two different initiatives?
Well, I would say one, I have high respect for every single one of those people. We're good colleagues. But I would say I feel like our initiative is more realistic. One, because it provides a solution for regulators as well. Okay. So one, the broad exemption on use does not incentivize good breeding, right? Which is the mistake we've made in this industry over and over. While I love our industry for pushing forward and not waiting for things, I mean, that's why we're here, right? And I appreciate that. But we're 8 years in now of within the US of an industry. And we need to begin to value the seed. Every other crop is built on a foundation of strong genetics, and it recognizes the value of those genetics. I mean, even Lay's and Pepsi own their own genetics for particular product lines. So, everyone understands that in traditional ag, and we just see hemp over and over trying to circumvent that step with whether it's the 1%, right, initiatives. And now I see this as a little bit more of the same. It rewards unreputable or inexperienced seedsmen to sell low quality seeds, right, indiscriminately, which is what was happening when, we passed these federal laws back in the 30s and 40s, without regard to stable, reliable performance, no regard to THC predictability. So we've experienced this before, right? We saw this in 2017, 18, 19 with unreputable seed sellers. We lost growers because of that. So, in addition to other things, but that was poor genetics were a main contributor to our industry's black eye back then. So this exemption will allow, using that broad exemption will just allow us to continue to operate at subpar ag standards, and burn growers, I believe, over and over. So this puts the supply chain at risk, as well as large-scale adopters who are looking for risk mitigation, not increase risk. And I've heard it out of their mouths, these sort of medium-scale to large-scale processors of things like soy and corn, way too risky. Can't trust it. So we're going to be in that ongoing feedback again. We've got to shake this. This is as much about reputation of our industry as it is about scale and stable supply chain.
Okay. Would this initiative keep farmers from being able to use their seeds again? Would they, they grow seed?
No, everyone has their, different rules about, seed use. So no, of course, this is simply an incentive. It is not a mandate. So, and anyone can do what they've been doing and, in concert, I would hope, with their seed sellers and respecting, what their seed sellers have asked. But, some seed sellers don't mind. So simply an incentive.
Okay. This is sort of a weird question, but is there any downside to this or any unintended consequences that your team has imagined?
Yeah. The only, what we propose always takes time. I mean, in ag, if you are a grower, you have about 40 shots at bat, right? If you think about the lifespan of a grower, right? You get one shot a year. So it takes time. And what it requires, I mean, people, one of the, the initial pushback I heard until I sent folks to the ASCO website was there's not enough certified seed. That's not true. And the number of varieties that you see there, I mean, have you trialed all of them? So that's the downside. You have to take time to trial. But the good news is that in some ways, the flip side of these high commodities and the challenge for hemp adoption is you have time to trial. So, use these couple of seasons to trial as many as you can. I mean, that's the step everybody skipped, right? With good reason, because we didn't always have this number of varieties. So trial, which takes time. That's the downside. If you want to make that incentive work for you, trial as many as you can.
Okay. How can people get involved?
Please do contact, if you go to, there's a page on our website called Value the Seed Initiative. Within our press release, there's a link to that. And there's contact, fields in there that you can fill in. What we're looking for is, folks signing a letter of support, lending their logo, and giving us ideas in their state. Hey, here's a good body of support. Here's feedback from our State Department of Ag. I mean, we love, to hear that. We know what growers want, right? But, any kind of feedback, technicality, just not that we're responsible for solving the regulatory piece, language, but feedback's important. And even, any kind of folks that are, have issues with it or have a problem because they've thought of something we haven't have, we certainly want to hear that as well.
Okay, great. I will put those links on the show page for this episode. Yeah.
Great.
So before we move away from Value the Seed, because I want to just talk a little bit about New West Genetics, is there anything else you'd like to add about the initiative?
Nope. I think it's pretty simple. And again, reach out with any questions or comments.
Okay. So for people who maybe aren't familiar with New West Genetics, can you just describe what you do?
Yes. So New West Genetics began in 2014, half because of the opportunity of living in Colorado who had regulations ready to go in that initial farm bill, but also half due to our expertise in commercial breeding. So my founding partners are Dr. Joe McKay from Colorado State University, who is a professor in plant genetics. He's worked in the likes of, corn, brassica, model species, on the genomics of complex traits. And that is highly applicable to hemp because all of the cannabinoids, of course, are complex. That means there are multiple gene traits. It couldn't have been simple. So that resource of his brain has come in handy. And then my other partner is Dr. Richard Fletcher, who led Cargill's canola breeding program the last half of his career at Cargill. So canola, as I'm sure a lot of folks know, is highly valued for its lipid profile, and hemp's is better. So his skills at doing traditional breeding, but conventional breeding, I will say, on lipid profiles has come in handy for enhancing hemp seed to make it more competitive with commodities. So we sort of started out with that expertise as well as being in the right place at the right time. I bring the educational piece as well as some business sense when I started, but it's certainly grown. I've learned a lot. My learning curve with Steve. So that core group is still here today. We've expanded our team, and you can see the field behind us. We wanted to grow. We wanted to breed scalable hemp adapted to the U.S. for various market traits. So targeting flower, targeting the grain as well as the fiber. So that's always been our goal. This wasn't tip of the tail breeding like you see in corn, where you're just making small incremental improvements. We were able to make huge jumps because it really commercial breeding had not been applied. So it's all database. It's all about trialing. We still, every year, our trialing program grows. So just because we've developed varieties, we're not done. There's a lot more to do. And we love it when we see competition because we're like, yes, there's so much to work on. We can't do it all. So.
Awesome. Okay. And so besides the Value the Seed initiative, what else is happening these days with New West Genetics? Anything else exciting?
A lot of expansion. Every year our sales grow. So we've got the challenge, as I was discussing with you earlier, deciding where to travel to, and, we travel all over North America to our breeding plots, let alone customers. So we just hired another agronomist. So just continuing to expand our team and stay focused while also not ignoring opportunities. So that's always our challenge. We also, I'm a huge believer in the use of hemp and animal feed. So very active Hemp Feed Coalition on the board, working on those initiatives as well. Just one wonderful thing I just want to say that has happened in the industry over the last few years is I like to say that the cream has risen to the top and the folks that are going to be here long-term have become apparent. So it's not as dangerous choosing partners like it was the first 5 years. So what amazing partnerships we've developed across the supply chain. I just hold them near and dear to my heart because we're all being transparent, it's essential in a new crop and industry and truly rowing our boats in the same direction. I mean, people would say that before and they were not. So I just feel like the industry has evolved and developed and is stronger. And that reputational shift is starting to happen when traditional ag folks look at our industry and, just continually trying to push that further is my main goal as CEO.
Awesome. Wendy Mosher, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you today.
You as well, Eric. Thanks for doing what you do.
All right, there you go. Wendy Mosher from New West Genetics talking about Value the Seed. I will put links to more information on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. But otherwise, I got to go. I got to get out of here. So my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com, where you can get a subscription, and we will actually send you a physical newspaper once a week. All right, until next time, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock, and any music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Third Shadow.